I'd like to call the meeting of the Ordinance Committee to order, it being Tuesday, June 27th at 6:35. I have with me Counselor Lopez, I'm Counselor Vacan, and this is Counselor Bartley. And so we will leave the minutes on the table for now, if that's okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to take item number 2 off the table.
Can we
and
take 2 and 3?
So make a motion to suspend the rules, take items 2 and 3 off the table, and open up the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we now have the public hearing open. Item 2 is a petition of Dennis Croto for a zone change at 79 Lower Westfield Road from current zone Business Limited to proposed zone Business Highway, map 117, block 00, parcel 003. And item 3 is a petition of Dennis Croto for a zone change at 83 Lower Westfield Road from current zone R-1A to proposed zone Business Highway, map 117, block 00, parcel 004. And zone R-1A is residential. So with that, we have the public hearing opened, and what I'd like to do is invite the applicant to come to the microphone to give an overview of the proposal.
Oh, it does work, and it's loud.
You can move it down so you won't have to be on your...
Yeah, I'm a little short. No, that works. So I know all of you, and you know all of you. You know me. I'm Lisa Ball. I am a lawyer in Holyoke. I've been practicing law for 17 years. My law partner is Sean Allen, and we're both doing this project together. We've been practicing law, as I said, for 17 years. When we first started practicing, we actually did purchase a building in downtown Holyoke. We completely renovated it, and we were in that building for approximately 8 years. We had a good practice there. As we began to grow, we moved up to Whitings Farm Road and joined attorneys Martin Dunn and Thomas Wilson. And our practice continued to grow, which was something good. We had more Holyoke attorneys that joined us. We have Shayna Wilson and Aaron Wilson, Jack Moriarty and Joan Dietz. And we've now gotten to a point where we've once again outgrown our building. So we've been looking to rent something. We've been unsuccessful in finding that. So we then started to look towards buying some property. As I mentioned, we're all Holyoke attorneys. We've been here 17 years. Some of our law partners, associates that work with us have been here much longer than me. And we want to stay in Holyoke. We want to stay here. We want to continue to build our practice here. We identified some properties that are not far from where we're currently renting. The former Christmas tree house and a house that's right next door. It's convenient. It's near the highway. It's highly visible. Our plan is to put up a 2-story building, a professional office building with approximately 5,000 square feet on each floor. There's 8 attorneys that are currently in the current place where we are currently renting. We have at least 2 more attorneys who are here this evening that are planning to join us, hoping to have even more, depending on what we can do over there. And really, one of the reasons that we're looking for the zone change is really the parking issue. We have 10 lawyers. We have support staff for each lawyer. I think as it is currently zoned, we can have 20 parking spaces, which would really be enough for the lawyers and their support staff. We wouldn't have enough for clients, or when we have anything, bigger there, like a deposition where we have other lawyers there and clients. We just simply wouldn't have the room. So that's one of the reasons, really the primary reason that we're looking for the zone change. But I don't think there's going to be any issue in terms of like increased traffic. We all use that road now to get back and forth to where we are currently renting. It's going to be mostly a 9 to 5 thing. It's an office. I mean, certainly there are some of us that keep night hours and we see clients at night, but I think for the most part, we're really going to be there 9 to 5. Sean and I have invested in the city before. We've paid our taxes. I think, we did a lot with our building. We were, good property owners here in Holyoke. So we don't want to leave, and that's kind of been a problem because it's been limited as to where we really could go. And we don't want to leave Holyoke. We want to be a part of growing Holyoke and paying our taxes and doing something good for the city, and we want to stay here and do it. So we do have we have an architect here with us that's working with us. I think you're all familiar with Tim Murphy, who's very good, very professional. He's got some drawings that he's done, and we also have Pete Ostrowski, who's our builder. So we're very serious about this. We've put some work and some money into this, and hoping to move forward on it just as soon as we can.
Well, at the pleasure of the committee, I'd like to see them walk through that
Yes.
if the
Yeah, that's no
committee and the
problem.
public are interested. So if he wants to come up and walk through the proposal, that would be great. And just give us your name and everything on the microphone for people who may be watching at home.
Timothy Murphy. I'm an architect. I have an office at 380 High Street, a couple blocks south of where we are right now. Been there since 1980, longer than we can imagine.
Thank you. Yeah, just make sure the green light is on. If you press at the bottom.
Okay. Let me put these up.
Okay.
As Lisa said, I was asked to help them conceptualize how they might develop a new professional office building. And what's labeled here, Lot 3, it's about a 100 by 200 foot parcel where the Christmas tree shop presently is. I keep standing in front of this. If you need to see something, you're going to need to tell me to move over. That was the initial plan. We looked at current usage and future usage, put together a program, came up with a conceptual 10,000 square foot need for office conference space, 2 stories, 5,000 square foot per floor. And the first problem arose when putting that on the parcel, looking at the ordinance requirements for parking at one spot for 300 square feet, realizing that we need about 34 parking spaces, for the building, and we could fit really squeezing about half of that on the parcel. So we weren't going to be able to satisfy the ordinance requirement for parking, and equally as important, we weren't going to be able to satisfy the proponents' need for their own parking, their staff parking, and clients. So the idea was to purchase the parcel next door, which is, a couple 200 feet by, 240 or something, and be able to go over that line to get enough parking to support the 10,000 square foot development. I think this is about 34 spaces. So, that said, just to locate this for everyone, maybe a little hard to see, but this hatched area is those 2 parcels on Lower Westfield Road, which is right here, a little bit to the east of CVS, at the intersection of Whiting Farms and Lower Westfield Road, a little bit to the west of former Holyoke Geriatric property. So I've got a couple of other boards here, and obviously we're here to request a zone change, 2 zone changes, and I'd like to suggest to you that the request is in keeping with not only this one spot, but the entire area, and walk back a little bit, if I may, to the time that I remember. This is a partial piece of a USGS map dated 1958, and it comprises an area on here about the bottom of the sheet, over to the river on the right, up to there's Gilman Street right there. It's on the top of this map, and as you can see, here's Lower Westfield Road that comes up. Here's the parcels in question right here. There's the Geriatric, as it was in 58 before the addition went on. And the reason I'm putting this up is because at that time, and it's an area that in 1958, I used to, I was going to say walk, I think play is the right term, but I mean, it was a farm. So, there was the Geriatric Authority. I mean, here's Route 5, here's Main Street, development houses down there. There were houses in Elmwood at that point. I think this is Westfield Road. I think this is Bray Park up here, and that's it, Whiting Farm. So between 1958 and today, I mean, this is what's happened. The most dramatic piece on the map, obviously, is the construction of Route 91 here, and the construction of Whiting Farm Road, and here's Lower Westfield. You could see Tannery Brook where it comes through, kind of right in there. So what happened if you read through the developmental history from that time, you can see that we had the earlier development here, Gordon Drive in 61. There's some other residential development there in 68 and 69, Autumn and Lynch Drive. At the same kind of time, Curtis Business Forms, 69, Universal Plastics, 68, there's East Baking Company, 1970, the building that Bresnahan Insurance is in 71. It's labeled Valley Engraving. When it was built, it was the Holyoke Transcript Telegram when they moved up there from High Street. 69, 70, the Farnham Drive development began. Donahue School in 72, and we moved through the mall in 79. So this area developed from, in my lifetime, from the farm it was in an entirely mixed-use fashion. It's hard to imagine now, looking at what's there, that it wasn't in a we want to develop this and get some good businesses in there and go at it, and that's pretty much what's happened. at the city zoning map that corresponds pretty much with this aerial photography. And again, here's Whiting's Farm Road coming up. Lower Westfield Road is in here. You know, here's Main Street down here. There's the mall. So if you look at this, you know, quite colorful zoning map, it's a clearer, I think, graphic illustration of that mixed-use development than, you know, reading all the labels and knowing what they are. So focusing in on where this parcel is at, you can see that it's, you know, right in the mix of you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different zones, and in any case, I think easy to see that it certainly was put together as mixed use. With all of that said, thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify a couple things on the maps here. So what is the zone surrounding the parcels that you're talking about, or what are the zones? It looks like there's more than one.
Yeah, let's, I had to bring a scorecard. So, this dotted orange is yes, sorry. Is RM20. That's where Devonshire Place is. It kind of wraps around the back of that parcel. The Christmas tree shop is now BL. Residential. The other parcel is R1. R1A. So when we move over to, there's also a residence to the west of Tannery Brook, right adjacent to CVS. That let's see if we can find that. I think it's general business, even though we got the hatching going the opposite way, but I think that's what all of this striped area is.
Oh, so that's right behind, across the street in the back, where Sears is in that?
Well, no, yeah,
And
Sears
behind.
is in here.
Yeah.
On the south side of Lower Westfield Road. CVS is on the corner.
Right.
The parcel, there's a residence just to
Right.
the east of it there. You know, that's zoned the same as CVS, and I think that's general business, if I'm reading this correctly.
And then the red behind it?
The red behind it here is multifamily residence and professional office. So if this had just kind of oozed a little bit this way, we wouldn't be here tonight, because we'd be in a professional office kind of setting, I guess. You know, we've got more. You can see this separated up here. What's that?
Across the street,
Over here?
residential, the dark green?
Yeah, all of this here is residential. There's, I think, 3. I may be wrong. I think 3 parcels with houses from the corner, and then this parcel that Tannery Brook goes through. People could probably tell me. I'm thinking, is not currently developed, and we've got another zone in here that I'm not sure what it is.
No, think it
We
was.
need to improve the lighting here. Yeah, it could be two-family, but I'm not positive.
So can you go back to your first drawing for just a minute, because you had on it the two buildings that are there? And I'm just wondering, because you're showing them on the drawing, if the zone change is approved, is the intention to leave that home that's on that property right now?
Yes. That is the intention, and others can speak to it, but I believe the intent at the moment is to improve the entirety of the two properties, do some renovations over here, turn this into professional office use as well, but in the envelope that it currently exists. And I don't think that there's correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that there's a specific tenant at the moment, but, the meetings I was at, there was talk about, well, it could be additional space for lawyers, it could be, a dentist's office, it could be,
And of course, I mean, we're only gonna be talking about the zone change.
Correct.
From our perspective, but, what I'd like to do is open this up to the public now, to the extent that there are people here from the public and the neighborhood that are interested in this project, so that anybody can answer questions that they may have about it. So if there are members of the public here on this matter in favor or opposed to it, or if you just simply have questions about what is being proposed, if you'd come up to the microphone and give your name and address, and then we'll accept any comments into the record that you would like to make.
Hello, my name is Mary Hurley. I live at 72 Lower Westfield Road. My house is adjacent to the east, directly across from 79 Lower Westfield Road, and the adjacent property at 83. I think I have more questions at this point than opposing or in favor of. I didn't know if I could ask anyone questions.
Absolutely, you can ask them through me, we'll get them on the record, and
okay.
then there'll be an opportunity to get answers. How's
Oh,
that?
that's wonderful. So my concern is from residential or business limited to business highway. Is there any way to keep this business general, or is that based on the size of the size of the proposed project? Is that why it needs to be business general, based on two-story and parking, or both?
Do you want to give us all your questions, and then we'll give the applicant an opportunity to come up and
Sure.
address them?
Okay.
Okay, so it's YBH versus BG, size, parking,
Sure.
okay?
And approximately how far back from the street will this be located?
Okay.
And I guess the last question is, well, it's not really a question, it's more of a, it sounds like a wonderful plan. But being a resident there, from residential to business highway, you have to understand our concerns. And I know that this is a great, it sounds like a great idea, but sometimes things that sound really well aren't all that well. So, my other concern is our neighbors across the street just bought the house, so they were gonna be directly adjacent to this property, so that was another concern of, are they gonna be moving? Are we gonna end up with more renters on the street than we have homeowners? That is a big concern. We just saw a family move in, we're like, yay, someone who lives there owns a house. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I know the traffic probably won't impact much, I understand that. So it was kind of more informational tonight, and I mean, it looks great, but again, the concern is the business highway, because once that's there,
Right,
that doesn't go away.
right.
Although at the holidays, it might as well be a business highway because it's just insane. But that's progress. So I think that's really kind of all I had for questions. Rumors floating around, is medical, was it law practice, wasn't sure, single story, double story, so now I have more information, so I appreciate that.
Okay,
All right,
thank you. Before we get to answering the questions, are there any other comments or questions on the project from the public?
My name is Brenda Quinones, and I am the neighbor that just bought the house a
Okay.
year ago. And honestly, I'm kind of scared with all this because I moved to a residential area to be with neighbors, with a quiet place, and now all this is gonna be like right in my window. Like I'm sorry, but it's kind of scary for me right now. So I have big concerns about it.
Okay, and which number is your house?
I'm 75. I'm the
70.
lot right next to the,
75,
The-
directly
yes.
across?
no.
No?
Right
Oh,
next
right
to.
next to it?
Yep.
Oh, okay, because the last
So
time I
my
was out
parcel
there.
is attached to them.
Gotcha,
So,
okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying for me. Okay, so, thank you. I just wanna- Okay, so, oh, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Paul Lissette. I live at 966 Main Street. I guess my concern is about changing this to is it Business Highway? Is once this happens and they've grown already and they outgrow this building, what else is going to be there? Where are we going to cut off, our Golden Goose, the Holyoke Mall and all that traffic? Where are we going to separate that? Because it was a farm. All these houses that were built there, my house was there way before any Business Highway or any of those businesses moved in, and it's the same thing up there, and when's the city say, hey, we have all this real estate down here, lots of it, that's just empty. There's 4 or 5 buildings right here that could be bought and nice parking lot, tear one down, put a parking lot, and renovate another one. I just be really against, especially since I live in a business highway and everyone knows my issues. So I would be concerned about where's the cutoff, and then when's the next company buy the next set of houses, and it just grows and grows and grows down that street and into, the other neighborhoods. So, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's a representative from the applicant who could answer the questions on why BH versus BG or a different zone being sought, and the other questions in terms of how far from the street.
Good evening. I'm Sean Allen, who's Lisa Ball's law partner. She gave you basically our history. The primary reason for the zone change would be really the need for parking, and I appreciate the concerns conveyed, but if you look at the Christmas tree lot right now, even as a neighbor, it's blighted. I can tell you the cost to remove the asbestos and other toxic materials in there is close to $40,000, maybe a little bit more by the time it's done. I know I do have Mr. Ostrowski here, who is a very reputable builder, has built fine buildings that he could speak to that as to what ultimately probably would go there. But when you think about it right now, it's zoned for retail. So retail could be in the Christmas tree store if it weren't defunct, with tons of traffic coming in and out. But that's obviously not really our goal. I would let the architects and the builder probably speak to the technicalities of it, but the reason for the zone change would be the need to have proper parking with respect to the lot of the building, and even the house that's right next door to the Christmas tree store. It's owned by the same owner who we're on a contract with to purchase it. It could really be described as blighted, and right now I drove by tonight. There's like 6 cars in the back. There's overgrown grass. So our goal would make it to look aesthetically conforming to the neighborhood. Again, I think this really is, I don't think it's going to be like a 9 to 5 business, very similar to where we're at now. And I think it would be a great improvement to the area. But I do know the need for the zone change would be to facilitate the size of the building in order to have the proper parking. And when you look at the house next door to it, the reason we're also asking for the zone change is it really it's kind of not fair. It wouldn't fit into having a single-family home be there, but also come in and ask you for permission to allow us to have adequate parking on a single-family home when it kind of aesthetically would go with what's there now, because what's abutting is a large space, and then CVS, and right across is Sears. So those primarily are the reasons. We certainly will meet the needs, whatever requirement you would make, meet the needs of the neighbor. I do empathize. I think it's the yellow house right to the left that's there. It is the driveway, whatever aesthetically they would want there. But certainly what's there now is blighted, and I think putting a professional office building there would be a little bit better than even having what could go there now, which would be very busy retail, which is what it is zoned for right now, of the coming and going. I think on an average, other than our support staff and the lawyers, there wouldn't be tons of traffic. We are in the Pier 1 building now, which obviously is mixed use retail. There's a lot of traffic, but other than some sort of depositions, I wouldn't foresee tons of traffic or a lot of activity after 5. So I'm hoping I answered your questions, but I would defer to the architect, and certainly the builder could probably come up and address any aesthetic issues or concerns that the neighbors would have. But it's certainly our goal to make everybody happy and have it fit in with what's there now. Because I mean, what's there now is, this individual's just come up and said she's expended a lot of money on a home, but look what's next to her. And I do think the improvement, if anything, would probably increase the value of her home and ultimately what's next to it now, because what's next to it now is just a blighted building filled with toxic mold and other things that probably nobody's going to want to go in and touch at this point. But,
Thank you.
all right.
And maybe your architect could speak to the question. And again, I have to remind folks that when we get to the end of the public hearing, what we're voting on isn't the project, it's the zone change. But as with every zone change we've ever had in the city, it's always involved a project, so. You can come up to the microphone.
Well, one of my concern right now is, like they said, they've been growing.
Right.
They move from one place to another. So what happens if they grow again and they want to move from there? Once they change the zone, anything can come in there. So I moved in there with the idea that I'm going to stay there for years. Mm-hmm. But depends on what it's in there, it says if I'm going to stay there or not.
Right.
So as a residential person, if I want to stay there, but they decide that that place is not going to be big enough, that they need to move and sell it or do something else, what's going to happen with us?
And that's definitely a legitimate question.
Can I ask her a
Okay.
question?
Counselor Bartley.
Oh, Brenda, just go back to Mike for a second. Where are you in relation to Lot 3?
She's next.
I'm right there,
She's
next
next
to the,
door.
yep.
So directly next door, okay. And then,
So right now, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to fence my whole lot. It's not fenced. I'm gonna have to invest more money because something else bigger is gonna come there. I understood when I moved there. I said, okay, a small business in there. It's not gonna be, it's gonna be something small. It's gonna be general like it's now. But if it's a highway, anything can come. Anything big can come.
now looking out your window to the west, do you have a view of something now that is particular? In other words, if you see a two-story building next to you, would that block your view? Would it block the sun? How would that impact your?
And a two-story building, I imagine it'll cover the whole side of the house. I'm thinking the way that it looks in there. So
Well, and to that question, one of the questions raised was how far back
Yeah, can I just-
is,
can I just
I'm
finish?
sorry,
Yeah, can I
Councilor
just
Bartley.
finish? Yeah, thank you. So, and so that's, so when you kind of see the, you know, the proposed, the property line, Brenda, you know, it's, because I can't picture your house for some reason, I'm just drawing a blank, but about how far away is your house from the Christmas tree shop now? Is it, you know, is it 100 feet, you think, or is it
Maybe like 50.
20 feet,
50 maybe, because I'll
How
put
many?
like 50 maybe.
50? 50?
My lot is 100 by 100, and then there's a driveway.
Brenda, you
To
just
put
you
it
just get,
this
Brenda,
way, it's a
Brenda,
driveway.
Brenda, you just have to talk into the mic there, okay? So you get, pull the mic down, so you,
Mic down, so they
so you just,
It's what separates is the driveway.
there's a driveway, okay.
There's a driveway, and then there's my house, a driveway, and the Christmas.
And that's your driveway or the Christmas
No,
tree
it's
shop's?
their driveway.
It's their driveway? Okay, so your house kind of comes up close to their driveway? Your property line, okay.
Yes.
So, because your house and a driveway, then the Christmas tree shop,
Yes.
okay. And then, so it might lead to a question that the amount of, because if they're proposing, and I'm not saying, I'm just throwing this out hypothetically, they're proposing buying 2 lots. With lot 1, they're going to tear down, well, it's lot 3, let's just use their numbers. Lot 3, they're going to tear down a Christmas tree shop. They're proposing to retain the house that's now at lot 4. So the question might become that how proximate to your property line does their main building need to be? Does it need to be right in the footprint where it is now? Or to satisfy your concern, which is a legitimate one, would they have to move their footprint further to the west? In other words, move it closer towards CVS? That might not be possible, but if it were possible, that might mitigate some of your concern, or not. I don't know. It's what's just impossible to say, but I'm just throwing it out as a hypothetical. So this is an early part of the process, but you as an abutter have a legitimate voice in this whole debate. So I just, don't feel like you're overwhelmed by all the lawyers and the architects and us, if you will. I mean, so don't feel that way. I don't want you to feel that way, because you shouldn't. So your voice is very important in this. And so you bought that with a good faith purchase. You saw what was there, and now all of a sudden somebody's coming in for what is a very extreme.
Change.
Yeah, to change a zone. As a matter of fact, Brenda, we've had, and before us, the last 3 zone changes, we had a fellow counselor here who, I mean, how do I put it? He's not here tonight, but at least that's 2, he just completely eviscerated the petitioner's request to have zone changes. Totally eviscerated what they were. These are legitimate business people. And why did he do that? Well, you just heard the chair lady say, well, we're here just to talk about, the zone. Well, that's with the wink, Brenda. That's a little wink. We're all supposed to talk about the zone. And it's supposed to be some sort of hypothetical, but that's not the case, is it? We always talk about the project, so I'm not here to fool you, and the chair lady's not here to fool you either. But we always talk about the project. In fact, we just have one in Ward 3, the ward I represent. It was never about the zone. It was about the project. That's what destroyed the zone change petition. We had another one in Ward 6 where the petitioner came in. He didn't even have a project. He just wanted a zone change. And it was a harmless zone change, in my opinion, but he didn't have a project. And the same counselor eviscerated his suggestion. So let's just, keep that in mind. So we're not going to rush through this process, even though I would tend to support it in general, because, you want to have business. But I just want you to know that so don't feel like you're overwhelmed by this, okay?
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could just comment also to Brenda, the other things that will come into play is, this is the beginning of the process. There will be also a hearing held by the planning board in July. They look at it from a little different perspective than we do, because they're looking at it from the zoning and planning point of view, which is more specific than ours. And tonight, we will be keeping this public hearing open because they will hold theirs, and then they will be giving a recommendation to us. So as part of that process, they will be looking at the regulations and how the zones match in the area, and they'll also be looking at buffers within the different types of zoning, and that kind of goes to your question. But also, the question was asked, how far in from the street would it be, which I think creates an effect in the residential part of the street also, how that appears and relates to the resident. And the other thing to be looking at is, with the zone changes, how high could a building go and what things could happen down the road. So those things can all be explored in the context of this. But it is important, as a realistic matter, to Council Bartley's point, to have a project, because that's basically how some zone changes have been approved where others have not. I mean, as a practical matter. So I don't know if you are at a point where you could answer that second question about how far from the street or the setback, and how it would sort of interface with the residential.
Yeah, this plan has the building setback 30 feet from Lower Westfield Road, which is the front yard requirement for both BL and BH. It's the same. One concern about your property and the side yard. The side yard requirement in the ordinance is for BH is 10 feet. This proposal sets that at 20 feet from the side yard. The thinking was to remove the vehicular access from the east side of this building, between where it is now, between Christmas Tree Shop and your house, and move it over to the west side, such that this side of the building, between the new building and your property, would be landscaped. So I think that it would be an improvement visually, for you, in terms of traffic and what you would have for side yard, so that the traffic would be. It's expected that the front door is on the west side, so the thinking here is probably, staff, lawyers come in, park in the rear, come in that way. Any clients would be coming in this side, so that the traffic would be, in this instance, 150 feet removed from the property line, probably. Pardon? Well, it's two stories, so I would think that we're probably 26 feet or something total, something in that neighborhood maybe. How high could we go in BH? We could go to 35 feet. 2 stories is the maximum height in both zones. The building that's there now, was the Christmas Tree Shop. It was residential, 2 stories. Also probably scaled, a little bit down from what this would be, given that it is residential. But it's not, it's not a 1-story ranch that's there.
You all set?
Yeah, I'm not, no, but
Well, for the moment.
for a moment, yeah.
No, so just wondering.
Sure, you can come right back up to the mic.
So back in February of 2016, and I couldn't find anything recent, there was a proposal to change the definition of the BH zone. Did that ever happen?
It did not.
No.
Okay, so the BH zone is now what it was.
Yes.
Okay. Because concerns about, I don't know if you're aware of what's
Yes.
allowed in a business highway zone? Amusement park. Just kind of thought that was amusing.
It'd have to be a little bigger spot, but.
No pun intended,
Yeah, but it's just,
but it would be a good pun.
so, and then, so 50 feet, 30 feet back from the road, and then the entrance would be on the 83 Lower Westville Road side, closest to the Tannery Brook? Okay,
You know, it's just a little bit to the west of this property line.
right, yeah, there's the gravel driveway, the brook,
Correct.
so,
Driveway,
right, okay, so it would be on that side that would be pulling in?
yeah.
Entrance and exit, or just,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, there was an earlier plan, you know, to kind of loop around and it, you know, took a lot of the lot. And
Okay.
it didn't really seem disturbing, but, it's not expected that it's a high traffic,
yeah, no, yeah,
anyway, so
right,
a single, you know, entrance and exit, you know, provided it's wide enough for cars to pass, if they happen to show up at the same time, but, seemed to work better. It would, you know, minimize the traffic on the easterly side of the property and allow that to be landscaped. You know, the Devonshire property, to the north is parking here, so there's not any impact on that.
right. And then my other concern was, the school, the Morris Dunhill Elementary School, does that have any impact of, is it proximity to that as far as the zone change? That's immediately behind, Devonshire,
Yeah, the school is here.
so it would be behind, yeah, so it would be north, it would be north behind the proposed project, okay.
And Madam Chair,
Counselor Barton?
Mary, where's your house is where now, just so I?
It's at 72, so it is, west, I'm sorry, east of, no, that's 68, so we're right next door. We share a driveway. So it's,
So that's coming up this way.
yeah, as soon as you, there's a stop sign,
Yes.
yes. The house, there's a gray house, and we have the tan house. So, it's kitty corner, so.
Thank you.
And the other concern of mine, which is the big elephant in the room, is the future of the former geriatric center.
Which is currently for sale.
Right, and that is, I believe, currently zoned business highway or general, or are we sure? It's business highway also, so
I think
this
it's
is
It's a business use, yes.
an
I
added
don't remember
concern
which
of,
business.
It is a business, yeah.
So.
I'm not sure.
According to this map, it's multifamily residence and professional office.
Yeah, I thought it was RO or something like that.
is that Devonshire or is that geriatrics?
Well, the geriatric, I think, is kind of in here.
Isn't it RO?
It is, yeah.
See me pointing, the intersection here of the green, the orange, and the red is that intersection where the stop sign is.
Right,
So that, is it a Holy Family Way that
exactly,
continues along the west side of the geriatric property?
right,
So, and if, you know, if you're coming from CVS, headed down towards where you live, when you got to the stop sign there, if you straight in, you know, the geriatric would be on your left. So it's kind of positioned in here.
okay.
But it is RO.
It is RO, okay. So, is it being sold as RO, or we don't know, or that's for another day? Trying to
My
get some,
crystal ball says it'll be let's
All
make
right.
a deal.
Magic 8 Ball says, try again, okay. All right, thank you very much.
Pure speculation, that's all there is on that.
So just a point of order, Madam Chair, just on
Counselor Bartley?
on the process here, just so you can familiarize me and then the public, they have to go before planning.
Yes,
And-
I reviewed that for
Okay.
the public tonight, that we are the first step, and then the planning board will be meeting on this in July. And so I explained that this hearing will stay open. We will be hearing a recommendation from planning, and they look at things in a more technical, but not in a vacuum certainly, and they'll look at the zoning history and relationship of the zones in the area also in making the recommendation to us. And of course, neighbors, I would encourage you to also attend that if you're able, because, you know, it's again, a public hearing like this one, so that you can have more specific questions asked and answered, with some different people in the room also.
And those meetings, Madam Chair, where?
Those meetings are held, and as abutters, you should receive notices relative to that public hearing. You should receive a notice, and the planning board meetings are held in the annex building on the 4th floor. If you didn't receive a notice, it would be important to contact the planning board and staff, because you should have, because that's part of the whole notice process. Okay, and the business and residential abutting zone changes are by far the most difficult, the most sensitive, to try to see if there is a situation where a win-win can develop. So, and it's important that all the questions get asked and answered and reviewed. Are there any other questions or comments at the moment?
If I can, I would just like to make a couple comments based on what some of the neighbors have said. I do understand the concern about us growing and us moving from spot to spot, but the reality is, when we had our building in downtown Holyoke, one of the reasons that we left is we started losing people that wanted to come and rent from us in downtown Holyoke. So it kind of forced us to, we needed to move on with other lawyers, and we moved uptown, up to the Whitings Farm area. And we're currently in 3,200 square feet of rental space, which is not really a lot for 8 lawyers. What we're looking to do is to move into 10,000 square feet, but we want to make that our permanent home. When we bought our first building, 15, 17 years ago, we were in our 20s. We don't want to keep moving from place to place. We want to make this our permanent home. We're planning to invest probably about $2 million in this project, so it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for both of us to invest in this. It's going to be professionally landscaped. It's going to be a professional building. As I said earlier, we've already invested, in an architect and in a builder. So, I mean, we want to hear from everyone, of course. But we are planning to put a lot of money into this to make this a very nice building to conform to the neighborhood. And we want to stay there long term. I mean, with putting that kind of money in, we're not planning on going anywhere for the rest of our professional careers anyway. So that's I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Martin Dunn, 89 Madison Avenue. I practice law with Sean and Lisa, and I've been up at Ingleside for 10 years above Pier 1. And I would just like to echo what Lisa said. I think that all of us, our commitment is to remain within the city of Holyoke, and I can't imagine that with the investment that's being made as an office building, this is going to be an office building, so someone that would want to come in and do something different at this location, I think they'd have to knock the building down and build something else. It'd be pretty hard to retrofit from what I understand is going to be, and we've talked about offices and conference rooms, so it's going to be an office building, and given who is in that building now, it's practitioners who, Jack Moriarty, who's practiced in Holyoke for over 30 years, Joan Dietz, who's been in Holyoke forever, Sean and Lisa's practiced in Holyoke. I've been practicing in Holyoke since 1983. It's really hard to imagine that we're going anywhere else. This is the last stop on the railroad, I would say. So I think it's fair to say that we want to stay. We love that location. Quite frankly, it's a nice location because of the proximity to 91 and the Turnpike, and it's an easy location to get off and go to court all out throughout Western Massachusetts. But I really think it's going to be a low-impact development. I mean, there's retail there now, so I think if someone else came in and did something in retail and purchased the property, it would have a greater impact on the neighborhood than the office building that we're hoping to construct, or Sean and Lisa are hoping to construct. I'm going to be a tenant, but I hope it works. I really think it can be a win-win for the city. It's going to be a large investment and improvement to the property. The real estate, the valuation's going to go up. I really think it'll be more of a lesser impact than retail. And I truly believe that we'll be good neighbors and that we'll be there for hopefully we'll be there for a long, long time. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim McCree, 35 Washington Ave. I am currently an attorney in Springfield, Massachusetts, and I'm looking to make the transition into Holyoke to make it as my permanent place of business. Majority of my clients are in Holyoke now, as opposed to Springfield or any of the surrounding area. One of the things that's very important, as I am a very young attorney and I'm only a few years out of school, is that the individuals that are in this building are, for lack of a better way to say, is some of the legends in Western Mass for attorneys, and that's the place you want to be. And for me, that's a wonderful and amazing opportunity. Currently, I am right now right by the courthouse in Springfield. I've had several opportunities to move my practice to Chicopee and remain in the area I'm in Springfield. And frankly, if this project were to go through, wholeheartedly, that is exactly where I want to be for the rest of my career personally. The Holyoke seems to be the best place as a general practitioner, and again, a majority of where my clients are.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Sure.
Hi, my name's Rich Herbert. I live in Springfield. I practice in Springfield, and I also practice in Chicopee. Just full disclosure, I'm an interested party. I do plan on moving in with them. And you had said it, we can't help but talk about the project. It's something you can't really avoid to do. And to just address some of the concerns of the neighbors that were there, what's currently there is a retail store. And if we were going to balance out, if nothing happens or if it remains, what I'd ask the members of the community to take into their consideration is that the nature of a law office and the law office that these guys have in mind is the image is modern professionalism. And the traffic that comes into a law office is deeply professional and it's deeply private. In comparison with a retail store, it's not the case. What they have in mind is something that's, it was said win-win, but it can be win-win-win. It can be symbiotic with the community as well. It's a resource for the community. It's no articulation as to how it would interfere with the community. And what we just ask for the community to keep in mind is that. So with that in mind, I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich.
Not seeing anyone else interested in speaking at this point, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing. We do need to choose a date and time certain.
So Madam Chair, may I just address the petitioner, or Mr. Murphy?
You may,
Mr. Murphy,
Councilor Burke.
what date, you turn your mic on, Tim. What date are you before the planning board? Okay, so Jill, thank you, Sean. So, and just in your experience, either Sean or Tim, is planning going to make a decision that night, Tim or Sean, or is planning going to continue are you doing site plan review? Is that part of this? No. Okay. So planning could conceivably render a decision that night?
That would be the hope. There's been talk here tonight that we've all been through before, where you read the regs and what's before you is a zone change, but without talk about a project, they don't seem to go anywhere. And, you go to planning and speak to them ahead of time about, what the hearing's about, and they'll tell you the same thing, well, site plan review later on is about the project. But you get in there and there are always questions. It begins with the setback questions that we had here, and the parking and the lot coverage, and I think conceptually we can answer all of those, basic dimensional control issues. We're aware of them, and they've been taken into consideration with the plan that's here. But with that, I would think that they could rule. Whether they will is...
Right, we don't know what
Well, we
they
don't
will
know,
do.
so Madam Chair, just based on that, if planning's gonna meet July 11th, I'd hate to have us continue to July 25th, knowing that we're not gonna have an opinion, so I'd like to make a motion that we continue to August 8th. Are we meeting in August, by the way?
There's a city council meeting on August 1st.
Yeah, the first.
And what I was going to check in with on committee members, and we are lean tonight, but I was going to suggest that we meet on the last Tuesday of July, so that if there are matters that have come to us that we have recommendations on, whatever they may be. I mean, we have a lot of things in the jacket.
Is it chair
that
planning
we
to meet
could-
July 11th?
No.
Okay, then I'll make a motion that we continue this to July 25th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is continued to July 25th, and we need a time certain, so
6:30.
6:30 is our standard
Yep.
time, so just to be
So
official.
the motion is to continue to July 25th at 6:30.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming down, and we look forward to seeing any and all of you on the 25th.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I know that we talked about item 21, and I understand that the applicant is here with us now.
Oh, sure.
So
Motion to
could-
take out of order?
So I'd like to make a motion to suspend our rules, take up agenda item number 21.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We did.
We did.
Thank you. No, it's, so item 21 we have before us, that the city council street vendor application of Augustin Ortiz to sell ice cones in the Holyoke area. So is Augustin here? If you can come up to the microphone, give us your name and address, and give us an overview of your business and where you would like to have it.
My name is Augustine Ortiz, live 181 Rovera Clemente Street, apartment 1R, Holyoke, Mass. Okay, I'm planning to have like small cart or sell ice cones right in front of Carlos Vega's park. Like that, it's gonna be a small business.
So when you say at the park, do you mean on the sidewalk outside of the park or in the park?
No, outside the park.
Okay. And is there a particular side or corner or area that you usually are at?
This is my first time, gonna be the first time, yeah. So I'm planning to be like, across the street, right in front of my building apartment where I live.
I'll be right with him, I just want to write it down. Okay, and what hours are you thinking that you'd like to have this?
Probably be like 9 a.m. to like 8.
8 p.m.?
Yeah,
And how many days a week are you thinking?
about 6-7 days, depends.
So you're thinking up to 7
Yeah.
days? And are you thinking a certain time of the year, like from 1 month to another period
Probably be
of
the
time?
summertime, like from June to middle September, like middle September to the 15th. Right?
Okay,
Okay.
so June 1st through September 15th. Okay, and so the only thing that you would be selling would be the ice cones?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Counselor Nelson?
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Chairwoman. I've actually been working with the applicant. The space they're looking for is in front of 181 Clemente Street. That's actually the building where they live.
That's what
Yeah,
that's
so
what he said.
that's the exact number of the
Okay.
building, 181 Clemente Street. They're selling piraguas, which is an ice cone, but in a Puerto Rican flavor. They have amazing different flavors. I got to test one out in the apartment. They're testing the product, which is good. I would actually like to just amend, hopefully, the end date, because the Taste of South Holyoke's the 23rd. So if it could be up until that weekend, the 24th, that'd be great, just so that way they could participate in the festival.
Oh, you want to be in the festival, right?
But the applicant seems good. They reached out right after I first saw the application, and we've been working ever since. And I think they're going to have a good product, and I support this petition.
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, so, unfortunately, we're not gonna meet again as a body, a full body, to take this up until August 1st. So there's that, so you're a little, just because of the calendar, okay? So just wanted you to know that.
Okay.
I am very excited about your business, so I want to support it. I actually want to amend the date to September 30th, so just so we could keep the numbers kind of round, Madam Chair.
The beginning of one month to the end of another.
So I'll make the motion that we grant the license for the applicant for the period September 1, strike that, to June 1 to September 30th, so that he can operate 7 days a week between the hours of 9 a.m. and 8 p.m.
In front of 181.
in front of 181 Roberto Clemente Street.
Is there a second?
I will second that, but I have a question for Mike.
Okay, so
Did you
under
get
discussion?
did you get a permit from the DPW to park on the street?
Yeah, I got the
You got
permits.
the permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got all my permits, I got insurance, I have everything.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Well, no, that's,
Good point.
so that would be contingent upon, the license contingent upon him
Yeah, he got it.
acquiring all the proper permits and insurances and that sort of thing.
Yeah, he
We're
has it.
giving him this
Yeah, that's fine.
relocation. We're not doing anything other than,
Yeah.
No, I will second the motion. That's fine.
okay.
So,
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to go back to regular order if I could.
Okay,
Take up,
You want to take Mike? That way we can get him out of here.
oh,
So he's over.
he's not.
No.
Oh, our Mike.
oh.
I thought the other Mike, and I said, he's
department,
not
sure.
here. Mike's
Yeah, well,
over.
whatever orders the department head has.
Hang on just a second. Item 9.
Yeah, item 9. I will make a motion to take
So,
8.
8. So you want to go out of order, and which one? You want to take up 8?
Yeah, I would like to do 8, 9, if that will be fine.
Okay. 8 and 9 as a package?
Yeah.
Did you want a second?
No, can we just take them up separately?
Separately?
That's
Okay, so we have a motion to take up item 8.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 8, filed by Council Roman, ordered that the no parking sign in front of 61 Commercial Street be removed.
Okay.
Okay, done.
That's fine.
Okay, can I have a
Mo-
motion?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion
Motion is approved, 3-0.
to take number 9 off the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Filed by Councilor LeBron Martinez, request per Lyman Terrace tenants that John Street, Oliver, and Lower Hamden Street be designated for those residents living within Lyman Terrace, suggesting that tenants be provided with parking stickers per household, since they feel parking becomes limited when those who come to work in downtown park around the corridor.
So I spoke with Matt Mainville,
Yeah.
Housing Authority today. They can provide the permits and we
Within
can,
their own,
yeah, so
property?
they can do that process
okay,
and we can post the resident permit parking only signs on these streets.
Okay, so is it similar to Bowden Village?
Yes and no. In Bowden Village, there's more courts within the main road on Bowden Village where the Housing Authority has complete jurisdiction. I think this would be similar to what we have on Elm Street and Beach Street.
Oh, okay.
It's just that the Housing Authority they would be able to manage the issuance of the permits.
Okay. And you feel that it's a reasonable thing, given the multiple interests in the parking?
I do, yeah.
Madam Chair?
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, I would, I support this, except for, certainly with, let me just hear streets again. Oliver Street, Lower Hampton Street, so it's Hampton Street below High Street. Just on John Street, I'd be hesitant to approve that because I do know that the Housing Authority in this project is going to create more parking. And we know that's true, Madam Chair, because we had the director here and we also had Mr. Marrero here saying, well, they're going to lose all this green space because they're going to create more parking. Therefore, we need to create the park across the street from City Hall. So we know they're going to create more parking within the confines of Lyman Terrace. I understand that those streets that, Oliver Street, that kind of runs north-south. I understand Lower Hampton Street between below High Street. But John Street, there are a lot of business people and there are a lot of customers of business people that use that for parking. I would like to just kind of exclude John Street from this.
Would that
That'd be fine.
reasonable?
Yeah, I will second that motion. Yeah.
Okay, so we have an amendment to eliminate John Street, but leave Oliver and Lower Hampden Street.
Yep.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Is there a motion on the whole, on the amended?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve this as amended and to create the resident parking. We also have to amend Chapter 86 of the ordinances, and kind of similar to what we did at Bowden Village, and just to what Mr. McManus said, that the Housing Authority will be in charge of the resident parking stickers.
Right, so for the legal form?
So this is not underneath the purview of the city clerk. This would be, but again, it's Chapter 86, and I forget the section, but you know what it is. Chapter 86, and this would be under the purview, that section there that'll be that's similar to what we have at Bowden. So that's
I will second
my
that.
convoluted motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the amended motion, leaving in Oliver and Lower Hampden, eliminating John, to do the permitted parking, which will occur by the Housing Authority.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion, are you number 10, Mike?
7, 10,
Oh, I'll take,
And then
we'll make motion, take up number 7, please, off the table.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Filed by Counselor Lopez that the handicap parking space at 39 Vernon Street be removed.
Motion to
Disabled child
approve.
moved out of the area.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up number 10.
Yep. Second.
All
Sorry.
in favor?
Aye.
The petition was filed to the Committee for the Speed Humps on Reservation Road, and the petition has been received. I'm not sure if the petition got copied to you and to the other two related departments. I think it's police and was there another? Oh, it was engineering, DPW, police.
It's those. Yeah.
Pardon?
So DPW and engineering.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I know you're
Yeah, and I don't
both
know
in
if
the
there
same
was
house.
another one other than police.
Okay. So my understanding is, and we're going to need to advertise to hold the public hearing relative to this, is my understanding under our revised ordinance.
So we did a traffic study on Reservation Road.
Okay.
Over the last weekend. So from the 23rd through this afternoon.
Okay,
And what we found was that the average speed was 24 miles per hour. That 85th percentile speed was 32 miles per hour. And I believe the statutory speed for Reservation Road is 30 miles per hour. There were some outliers where we did see a car or two going 40 miles per hour, which is the case with all roads. But what we found with our study is that vehicles were traveling the general speed of the road, and that speed humps would not be warranted.
oh, okay.
So I'll make a motion that we deny the, well, we don't have a, what's the motion? The motion that we accept the recommendation of the DPW
There
superintendent.
you go.
Second?
Make it more positive. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Thank you. For a second, I was thinking of George Frost. That's all.
And then 15 through 20,
Just, Matt, point of order.
sorry.
May I?
Sure, Counselor Bartley.
So, Mike, just to help the chair lady, not that she doesn't take good notes, but on that point for Reservation Road, it would be nice to have a writing
Sure.
from you, because normally you provide us with a writing, but it'd be nice to have
Those-
a writing for the chair lady.
We have been spoiled by your grids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
will
well,
admit.
if you could just forward to the full ordinance committee,
okay.
just so we have it for our full city council meeting, because, this is,
There will be a big gap
well, it's just
between
got to
this
be
and
supported.
the council
Sure.
meeting too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you can, it is very helpful.
So, Mike, what's the next one?
15 through 20 are
can-
handicap signs.
These are all handicapped.
Madam Chair, I'd like to take 15 through 20 up as a package, please.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So item 15, filed by Council Roman, ordered that a handicap sign be placed in front of 552 South Summer Street for Jordanis Figueroa. Item 16, filed by Council Roman, ordered that a handicap sign be placed in front of 552 South Summer Street for Brenda Lorenzi. Item 17, filed by Councilor LeBron Martinez, that a handicap sign be placed in front of 372 Maple Street for Cynthia Hernandez. Item 18, filed by Councilor Bartley, that a handicap sign be placed in front of 3 Laurel Street for Adelaida Ramos. Number 19, filed by Councilor Roman, that a handicap sign be placed in front of 68 Cabot Street for Am Alicia. Oh, and item 20, filed by Councilor Roman, that a handicap sign be placed in front of 577 South Bridge Street for Nathaniel Santiago.
And, we don't have any problem putting these signs up, we'll put them up. The only thing is you can't say that this sign is specifically for this person. There's no ownership.
Oh, no, we never do
Correct.
that.
But
We wouldn't ever
sometimes
think of doing that.
there's people who feel like this is my
They-
sign.
There's sometimes people do feel ownership.
I know it.
And Councilor Roman.
Yes, Mike, through you, Madam Chairwoman, if I may, Mike, I probably have about 3 more for South Summer Street, and there's already lots of handicap parking on South Summer. So I'm just wondering, that's why I just sent it to the experts to see what you feel. So I'm already concerned that there's already quite a few on South Summer Street, correct?
There's one, I know there's one that we just put up recently at 552. But if there's a need, there's a need.
I'm just concerned about the general parking for the regular public, because those are all apartment buildings. So if we start creating handicap only for multiple tenants, and then it's gonna eat up the regular parking. So that was my only concern, that just on that whole strip, and just for this one building now, I probably have 2 more people coming in for requests.
Right.
So are we gonna have 5 handicap parkings for one building?
Let's see what our disabilities
Commission says. yeah.
commission said.
I'm just concerned, so that's,
We have the same concern.
okay, good.
I haven't had a chance to look at these ahead of time. So for is a different name. This is a different name than what I have on.
I think there's a lot for that building.
So the name that I have from Disabilities Commission is a different name than what we have on the agenda, probably because there are so many. So we
Yes.
can't address that particular one tonight. 3 Laurel. I'm just looking to see. We have the other one from South Summer, which is for Brenda Lorenzi. And Don Welch went out and did a site visit, 622, and recommends that this application be approved. The other one that is not on our agenda was also recommended for approval, so it'll be housekeeping, but I don't have one that I see in the jacket on Mr. Figueroa.
Okay. Well,
So,
then I'll make a motion to reconsider our action and just take, separate out item 15.
What about if we do pending the disability commission?
leave it tabled?
Yeah, or just, I think that we should move it forward and then pending the recommendation of the disability commission.
Sure. whatever you wanna
Accept the
do.
recommendation
Yeah,
of the
absolutely.
Disability Commission when we receive it?
Yeah. I mean, why keep it in committee? And,
Well,
I mean, if we
the
can
thing
send
is,
it back.
I'm just concerned if we don't table it, we might lose track of it. Because then it'll be out there, but we won't have any paperwork on it.
Okay.
That's all, there's a lot of stuff in that
Yes.
jacket.
So I made a motion that we, if, based on that, that we reconsider our action, we just take items 16 through 20 as a package.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. And then I'll make a
So-
motion that we approve
So,
all the 16 through 20, assuming they've got all the other, the support of the Disabilities Commission.
Second,
this one goes. Ms. Ramos recommends approval, that is 3 Laurel Street. That's item 18. Cynthia Hernandez is item 17. That was recommended for approval. So we have 3 that are on the agenda recommended for approval.
Okay, those are number 16, 17, and 18?
so you have to amend.
And what about 19 and 20, Madam Chair? They're not in the jacket?
I don't see anything for them. I believe Ryan thought everything was coming back from disabilities, but these are the only 4 that I see in here.
So I make a motion that we approve 16 through 18.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion, we table 15, 19, and 20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is that everything for you? Thanks a lot. Well, we got you out of here before 11 o'clock.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
You want to go back to regular order? Or actually,
Yes, we
well-
have
well,
public
we have-
hearings.
We have Counselor Roman here. I mean, we don't have these other counselors here, so I just soon take Nelson's orders up now.
Well, his is one of the public hearings
Well,
also.
then let's take up,
The items 4, 5, and 6 are continued public hearings.
Yeah.
So we can
Make a
do
motion
item
for-
6.
yeah, I'll make a motion to take agenda item 6 off the table and
Second.
All in favor?
public hearing. Aye.
And can you make a separate motion to open the,
I'll make a motion that we reopen the public hearing.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Just to be clear. Okay, Counselor Roman. So we did open the public hearing. We did have a general discussion. Planning Board had not gotten to it yet. My understanding is they're meeting on it tonight. I had sort of hoped to go longer into the agenda, hoping that we might get something, because every once in a while, something will be brought over to us, and then we can act. But not having that yet, if you wish to speak
on the?
I'm
matter?
okay, I agree with our body's decision. Just around the date and the time and hearing back, I know the legislature, we just saw in the House, they just approved their version, the Senate has approved theirs, the conference will be meeting, so I think we're fine within the realm of it, because it looks like the legislature's gonna come out with theirs, so I'm still in support of it, because it looks like we're gonna get our direction from the legislature very soon, and we'll craft our own language out of this body, so I'm fine with continuing the public hearing. I think we're gonna have our own stuff here soon, so I think we're fine. I know we're going through these motions to ensure that the public has their say, but I think that as a body, we did a good job in approving this moratorium just to make sure we get all our ducks in a row. So I think that's pretty much where I'm at.
Okay, so what we did is we continued the last public hearing to July 25th at 6:30. So I think to keep everything on the
Consistent.
same track is
I agree.
probably the best bet.
Did you want to hear from, you have to hear from the public though first before we do that.
Is there anybody here from the public on the matter of the marijuana moratorium? And let me just read the order that the continued public hearing is on. Ordered that the City of Holyoke pass a moratorium on the approval of any recreational marijuana retailers, growers, and distributors. Moratorium would expire December 31, 2018. And the other language in it states, or at the time that the state law is passed. So if there's no one from the public interested in speaking on this matter,
I'll make
not
a-
seeing any,
Make a motion to continue this public hearing to July 25th at 6:30.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And Nelson's next order is, I have to make a motion to take number 13 off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 13, filed by Council Roman, ordered that the City of Holyoke, through ordinance, pass the fair chance rule requiring that the city itself as an employer make revisions to its current civil service processes and eliminate any barriers, including the checking of the box during an interview and application process that may preclude applicants with criminal records from gaining employment with the City of Holyoke and/or its contractors, giving exception to any employment having to deal with the elderly, finances, and the youth. Now, at the original public hearing, there was a general discussion, and there had been a request by a member to receive a copy of the application.
Yes, ma'am?
But, Council Roman?
Yes, and I emailed that to the committee members May 23rd.
We
And
have
so, oh, yeah, perfect. So I think the committee members, and again, this is a continuing conversation. Back then, when Attorney Carroll was the acting city solicitor, the language and why it's proposed and where it's proposed is because the city in its Muni Code ordinance doesn't have a robust HR, like hiring processy section. So under the purchasing department and city vendors Quarry screening was the section that Attorney Carroll felt was the most appropriate to draft the language. So I read through it. I'm fine with the language. And again, if the committee members would like to tweak, but I thank former Attorney Carroll for taking the time to draft it in there.
If I may.
Councilor Lopez?
So that's something different. So you want to make changes to the city ordinance? Basically, that's what you're saying?
So, yes, it's ordinance change, yes.
So what I did, I got a copy of the city application, and they don't have any boxes there. There's nothing there in the city application.
Okay,
If
so
you
that
go
must
to
be,
the, so that, I thought that it was taken care. I mean, I don't have it with me. I don't have the application, but I can send it to you.
no, I've seen, maybe it's been updated, but I know that, just a couple years ago it's there,
Maybe
so.
we need to-
So you weren't at the last public hearing, and so the understanding was that it was about the application process and having to check off the box relative to the record. We had received an updated copy of an employment application for the city from someone that does not have that box. So that was the information that we received. Now, separately, any language that may have been attached that would change any processes of the city was not reviewed at the last public hearing. So if there's language that you want the committee to consider, we may have received it, but we have not reviewed it and we have not gone through it. And
Of course.
And what the changes might mean for the city.
Of course.
For myself, just on a quick look, it looked like there was some movement that seem to desire to decrease the request for quarry checks in that language. So I didn't know if you wanted to run through the language that you would like to see changed in the ordinance. That was the perception I got from a quick read of the draft that I saw.
So in the original email that Attorney Carroll said, it would follow, and then she pulled that language from Worcester and Boston that would make it so that way it's legalized. Because again, if this HR administrator removed the box, say the next HR administrator comes in, they could simply easily put the box back in. So this would codify in our ordinances to make it so that it just wouldn't be there, albeit provisioned. And I will, again, love the committee members myself. Let's put this on the next one. Let's continue this to read through.
We're in the public
No,
hearing,
exactly,
so I mean,
exactly.
this is
No, exactly, besides the
place
public, but
to have
from
it, and
me.
we'll hear from the public
Exactly,
also.
from me to my colleagues, yes, let's continue this conversation. Let's look at the actual language, and I love hearing that feedback about even changing or amending the verbiage, because again, it's not eliminating that portion of the quarry. I don't want to decrease that if the job entails that. I just wanted to allow it to have them get through that door, you know, and if
Right.
it's not needed, it's not needed.
Right, and just for my own recollection, if I'm remembering correctly, and if you want to run down the language from the top in this hearing, you can.
Sure, okay. So the draft language that was updated 6/27/2017. So it's Article 3, Departments, Division 3, Section 2-348, quarry screenings by city vendors. Purpose, this section is intended to ensure that the persons and businesses supplying goods and services with the City of Holyoke deploy fair policies relating to the screening and identification of persons with criminal backgrounds through the quarry system. Definition, unless specifically indicated otherwise or under Chapter MGLC 30B, these definitions shall apply. Applicant, any current or prospective employer or licensee, chief procurement officers, the purchasing agent of the City of Holyoke, contractor, any vendor or supplier of goods and services, CHSB, the Criminal History Board defined in Massachusetts General Law 6/803, otherwise qualified, any applicant that meets all other criteria for the positions or consideration. Application for quarry-related standards, Section C, the city will do business only with contractors that have adopted and employed quarry-related policies and practices and standards that are consistent with the city standards. The city employs quarry-related policies and practices that are fair to all persons involved and seeks to do business with contractors that have substantially similar policies and practices. The chief procurement officer shall review all contractors' quarry policies for consistency with city standards. The chief procurement officer shall consider all contractors' quarry standards as part of their criteria to be evaluated in awarding contracts, and will consider contractors' execution of quarry standards to be evaluated among other performance criteria in the contract. The chief procurement officer shall consider any contractor's deviation from quarry standards as ground for rejection, rescission, revocation, or termination of the contract. And then it details Section D, quarry-related standards. The quarry-related policies and practices of the city shall include, but not be limited to, the city has a policy of affording a rehabilitated individual with a criminal record with a fair opportunity to be involved and reintegrated successfully into the workforce while protecting vulnerable populations and public safety. Consistent with this policy, a criminal record will not automatically disqualify an applicant for employment unless explicitly mandated by law. The city will conduct a quarry check on an applicant, the city will not conduct a quarry check on an applicant unless the quarry check system is required by law or the city has made a good faith determination that the relevant position is of sensitivity that a quarry report is warranted. The city reviews the qualification of an applicant and determines that an applicant is otherwise qualified for a relevant position before the city conducts a quarry check. The city does not conduct a quarry check for an applicant that is not otherwise qualified for a relevant position. If the city has been authorized by CHSB to receive a quarry report consisting of solely conviction and case pending information, and that quarry report is received within the city and contains other information, for example, case disposed favorably or the applications found not guilty or dismissal, then the city informs the applicant and provides the applicant with a copy of the CHB's information for the applicant to pursue correction. When the city receives proper quarry report of an applicant that contains only quarry information with which the city is authorized to receive, the city is inclined to refuse, rescind, or revoke the offer of a position to an applicant when then the city fully complies with 803 CMR 6-1, including but not limited to notifying the applicant of potential adverse employment action, providing the applicant with a photocopy of the quarry report received by the city, informing the applicant of specific parts of the quarry that are of concern to the city, providing an opportunity for the applicant to discuss the quarry report with the city, including an opportunity for the applicant to present information rebutting the accuracy and or relevance of the quarry report, and reviewing any information or documentation received from the applicant, documenting all steps to comply with 803 CMR 6-1. The city makes final employment-related decisions based on all information available to the city, including the seriousness of the crimes, the relevance of the crimes, the number of crimes, the age of the crimes, and the occurrence of the life of the applicant since the crimes. And if the final decision of the city is adverse to the applicant and final results is refusal, rescission, or revocation of the position, the city will then promptly notify the applicant of the decision on specific reasons thereof. Section CE at the bottom is waiver. Under extingent circumstances, the chief procurement officer may grant a waive in this section on a contract-by-contract basis and shall be submitted a written record of waiver with the city council. The written record shall include but not be limited to a summary of the terms of contract, the details of the contractor's failure to refuse to conform to the city's quarry-related standards, and a brief analysis of exigency causing the grant of waiver. No waiver may be considered perfected unless the chief procurement officer fully complies with the provision of this subsection and applicability. If any provision of this section shall be held invalid by court or contempt jurisdiction, then such provisions shall be considered separately and apart from the remaining provisions, which shall remain intact. And that was the full order.
Okay, so, Crystal, do you have that language? Okay, so you're all set from your point of view. It's not new to you. Okay, so I'd like to open this up to members of the public who are here on this issue. If you would come to the microphone, give your name and address.
Madam Chair,
Councilor Barney?
I don't think we have a public hearing on this.
This is a public hearing.
Did we advertise? We did that?
This is a public hearing.
I don't think,
No?
I don't think this is a
Am I
public.
mistaken on that?
I don't think we're in a public hearing. I mean, we.
Okay, I may be mistaken
Yeah,
on that.
so we can suspend our rules to allow the public to
correct.
speak. I don't
You're
have a problem with
correct.
that. So, so I'll make a motion to suspend, allow the public to speak for up to 2 minutes on this subject.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
That's my well, I gotta get
Okay.
a second.
No, but thank you for,
All right.
But I
That
would like to get a copy of that before I vote on this.
well, we're
I
not,
just want to read it.
right.
And it's in
So
your
we
email.
have a second to suspend our rules to allow someone to speak on this matter.
Well, good evening, David, Linda, Diosdado, Nelson. My name is Ephraim Vasquez. I'm a member of Neighbor to Neighbor, also a board member for the state of Massachusetts. I'm here today to support the ban on the box
And your
because
address, please?
address is 370 Maple Street, Holyoke.
Thank you.
So I'm here to support the ban on the box because criminal records often disqualify people from being able to participate in society although they paid their debt. This is a fact sheet I got in front of me. This was research done by the Greater Boston Legal Services, and it got some credited sources that they got this information. And the number one bulletin is employment promotes public safety and quality of life. A, steady gainful employment and the leading factor of preventing recidivism. B, the higher the wage, the less likely it is that the person will offend again. And C, jobs promote public safety and a better quality of life in our neighborhoods. The second bulletin is cost of incarceration go well beyond the prison walls. Massachusetts loses as much as $20 million per year in reduced tax collection because formerly incarcerated people earn less. B, individuals without a job are unable to spend priority spending levels, and decrease in the consumer ability of productivity negatively affects the gross national product, a primary indicator used to gauge the health of the economy. And C, people without jobs often have to rely on public assistance and cannot support their children, with burden of the state's taxpayers. The third bulletin is Quarry perpetuates poverty. Our country poverty rate would have dropped by 20% between 1980 and 2004, but for mass incarceration and the consequence of criminal records that affected individuals and their families over the years. And see on the last bulletin, Quarry contributes to massive unemployment. Too many people with criminal record history means they will have no jobs or no income. 67% are unemployed a year or more after release from incarceration. Those who do get a job after release from jail take home 40% less in income annually. This will really help us out as far as for getting, building the city back up, building better community base. And I got this quote where, once we paid our debt to society, our family now deserve better, our children deserve better, and Holyoke deserve better. I feel like if we were to pass an ordinance like this, you'll see this community doing much better, and we'll be in a better much position, at least a lot of our people. So I challenge you guys to pick jobs and not jail, over jail. So please ban the box, look into this, read it. I think this will really help our people and community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Jacqueline Velez. I live at 99 Tokenique Road, Ward 5, and I work across the street at 295 High Street for Neighbor to Neighbor. I strongly urge the Ordinance Committee members to move the fair chance rule out of committee and bring it to the floor for a full vote. It would be in the best interest of the city of Holyoke to remove the question, have you ever been convicted of a felony, from the city employment applications altogether. It would also benefit the citizens of the city greatly if this agenda item would be made law, because many formerly incarcerated individuals from here could have a chance at a decent paying job to support themselves and their families. As you may already know, Holyoke is a highly impacted city by mass incarceration, and most of the folks that get incarcerated here come back here to live. People are not objects and cannot be ignored. We are people, and we deserve the same chances as everyone else, especially after folks have paid their debt to society and want to change their lives for the better. It is not like the city will not know about an applicant's criminal history at any point, just not before interviewing for the position they apply for. This allows for a fair process and less of a chance to get screened out of the process before getting a chance to display their qualifications, their skill set, and talent. Right now, people aren't even getting the chance to interview for a city job, even though the crime they committed may or may not have anything to do with what the job they're applying for entails or requires of them. This is state law already, and all we are asking for is for Holyoke to adopt a version of the state law on the city level. We thank you for your consideration in this matter, and we look forward to working collaboratively with you to get you any information you may need or answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lopez?
Next on the King counter, so any of this information before we, King counter, the human resource, the personal director, you talked to her about all this or no?
I talked to the previous
Okay.
HR person, so I haven't
You
had a
haven't,
chance to speak to Kim yet about it, no.
it will be a good idea,
No.
my suggestion.
I will, yeah.
Good.
I mean, well, listen.
Counselor
yeah,
Bartley?
She's not HR director. And
No.
I don't know if that even jobs, I assume it's been posted. I would hope so, but who's applied and, no idea.
She's the
So,
one there now.
yeah, she's in there now, no doubt. But she's not the director.
Exactly.
That's it.
Counselor?
And through you, Madam Chair, again, I completely agree, and whoever the next HR person is, it's within their purview to decide yes or no, and this would kind of codify and just put it into law form. So, again, I encourage the committee, let's continue this public hearing to a date, or
Well,
not public
and-
hearing.
and
Let's just
I
table the
stand
item,
corrected on that.
sorry. Thank you, so, Madam Chair. So, yeah, I would like to continue to table this matter till we can allow the full committee members to fully lead the language and the text to allow you all, and I did provide that email May 23rd, Councilor Lopez, and to all your committee members, and so we can bring it up hopefully by the next meeting as well, and then hopefully by then move it out before our August meeting.
All right. And I'd just like to give you a little, just feedback of where I'm at, just for myself in this right now. I'm in favor of the elimination of the box, but I would like to see us do it for our city. I don't like to see us telling other businesses how to run their business, and I'm concerned that we might get ourselves into non-competitive situations with vendors if we try to be very broad with creating an ordinance for what we're doing as a city. That's just my, just sort of reaction to it. I think what we want to do as an employer, see how it works out, you know, is great, but I'm just a little hesitant on, you know, going that broad. It's just a comment.
No,
Yeah.
and through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to ease your mind. The original Boston and Worcester law were way more expansive, and they actually try to do it to private employers, and I scaled that back for the Holyoke version that I'm submitting. And those two cities are good models, so I'm also going to reach out to them to get some feedback on how it's been going for those cities as well. I think it'd be good for the committee to hear.
Yeah, all right, thank you. All right, so we have a motion to table?
Yeah, so moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll table this to, we'll get some more information
Yes,
from
ma'am.
Council Roman?
Yes, ma'am.
And you'll let me know when you're ready for us to put it back on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to take.
Thank you, folks.
Motion to take number 14 off the table?
Second.
Do you, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Filed by Council Roman that the City of Holyoke remove the loudspeaker permit authority from the police department and include any loudspeaker outdoor permitting and special permits issued by the licensing board. This will improve efficiency, transparency, and equity when issuing permits for loudspeaker permits.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, committee members, for taking this up. I filed this almost a year ago because of a few examples throughout the city. I had a few churches who had called me. They had applied for a loudspeaker permit within that year and even this year, and were told that they got denied because they had had noise complaints from the year before, and they were never notified of that. And so when they went to pull the noise complaints, they had found out it was one or two people, and it was never addressed with them. So that was one portion. We have a lot of churches in Ward 2 and then throughout the city, and they go for loudspeaker permits, and it's hit or miss. And then secondly, and we have a business owner here today who is doing great work down, and it is a constituent of mine, is a business of mine, and is having one of the worst experience in getting a loudspeaker permit on a consistent basis. Even after proving themselves last summer, this summer it's a whole nother process to get a steady loudspeaker permit, and it's pending on their business. So this was after multiple calls. I think it's the best way to go, and I know Councilor Jourdain filed a similar order regarding public places and parks. I just think that if we make it a more streamlined process and remove it, and again, I won't speak to that specific business person's experience, that's why they're here this evening to speak on this. I think that this will be a better and easier and fairer process for the city moving forward.
Thank you, Council Roman. So we have this order before us, and then the recently filed one that's similar. But different. So, I don't think I think that one was just filed. So I'm wondering if the best thing to do might be to put them together and move them forward, because I think you're saying licensing board, I think the other one
Said the city council.
saying city council, unless you just want to pursue this path and stick with the licensing board. I mean, that's reasonable too.
Either way, I'm willing to amend mine to say the city council, whatever's going to be the most fairest for our businesses, for our community, to just come in and get a loudspeaker permit. And again, just to provide that business the opportunity.
Right, but is the concern that people aren't able to get one?
No, the concern is, Madam Chair, for example, a business is trying to apply for a loudspeaker permit, let's say for a summer concert series. They're getting told no and all these other hoops to do, but their competition within the city and other places can play all night. So it's not a set, even standard across the board.
It's an access issue.
It's an access
Councilor
issue.
Barton.
So did your constituent want to speak on this?
Yes.
Okay, well, just before we, and I'll make the motion for, not yet, I'll make the motion for 2 minutes. So it's just a 2-minute drill, so crystallize your thoughts. Hold on a second, just hold on, crystallize your thoughts. But yeah, I did join Kevin's order, only because, you know, I'd rather have a more transparent process than just the chief of police
I agree.
saying, you know, I kind of like, now that I see this order in front of us, I kind of like it better than having it go before city council, frankly. But I think you're right, we should probably dispose of them both at the same time. So there's that. I don't want to box in the license board either about how they make decisions, but I want them to also take into account neighbors, because I have the same thing on, listen, there are storefront churches in Ward 3, and they are loud. And that's not even, they don't even have a permit. They're just really loud, and I just hear complaints about it. And and again, that's noise ordinance violations, and that's best enforcement. So this is now, we're talking outside, loudspeaker permits. And I see the, you know, regular basis at Veterans Park on weekends, you know, the rallies and the revivals that go on at Veterans Park, they're loud. Now, whether it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon or not, it's still a loud, you know, and if it affects people. So I'd want, if we're going to do this, Nelson and the committee, I'd want us to put some, you know, put some teeth into it, not just a yes or no, but I want to sort of think about it so the license board can think about the, you know, sensitivity of the neighbors too. So.
Through you, Madam Chair, I completely agree. And again, I agree with my colleague, because even me, I live in a building where there's tons of stuff. I agree if we call. I waited one time an hour and a half to get anyone to show up to issue that noise complaint. By that point, it was done. And I agree. All I'm trying to do is provide equity. So what happens is exactly what Dave's saying. Some churches are told yes, some are told no. It's too inconsistent. And exactly, I do agree, though, we have to include provisions of teeth where if it's an X amount of complaints or whatever, you don't get it renewed again, similar to that. So I agree. I thank you.
So and I'm just interested to know if the licensing board is warm to taking this on, and if it fits in with their workload also.
Oh, they're.
Do we know that?
Well, I'm going to say I don't know it for a fact, but I remember the Ward 7 councilor filing about 39 different orders relative to transferring all our powers over to the license board.
I do
with whom
recall
he has a personal friendship with the chair of the license board. So I'm thinking that they're probably more
Nonetheless.
warm than not.
All right.
So I'm going to make a motion to suspend and allow the public to address us for up to 2 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And please give your name and address into the microphone.
Donald Robert. I'm actually from Chicopee, 75 Washington Street, but I represent Waterfront Tavern.
Oh, okay.
So last year, you know, we had taken over and we got outdoor speaker permits, and we understand in the past, the previous owners were not following the rules on the permits. We are not the same owners, and we were abiding by them. Councilor Nelson Roman can tell you that we were promised to get the permit for the summer after the first 3 months if there were no problems. After the first 3 months, that did not happen. Every month we would have to wait to the end of the month to file it for the next month. For instance, today I had to file for July, and I don't know if I'm going to have the permit or not. Yeah, I have bands hired. Now we are seeing Mountain Park go to midnight when we can only go to 10 o'clock on a Saturday. We're being forced to hire police. They're not. So there's problems like that going on from permit to permit. What we're also confused about is our entertainment license even states that it covers our licensed premise. Our licensed premise is our patio and behind the building. I also own a venue in Chicopee. I don't have to have those same hoops unless it's a simple one-day permit. You know, if I had a patio, I could have music on my patio. Here, I have to take a whole separate permit to have music on my own patio. That's confusing to me.
But if we can suspend rules after and have legal address, because is that what our ordinance says? Because I don't remember the waterfront ever doing that before. Did they always get I don't think they got a permit every month in the past at the waterfront. They had music there all the time.
From my understanding, it was the last few years after it had changed hands back into the police department.
But I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
I mean, because sometimes if you ask for something, then the permit is either granted or not granted, but if you never asked. I
Yeah,
mean,
we were told we had
I'm just
to,
looking
yeah.
to see what the language specifically says, because I'm just not familiar with it. So
Mhm.
I'm just curious, because sometimes you either get a permit or not a permit because you asked for one, but nobody really went and looked up the ordinance.
Right.
So I don't know, but since we have it here as an order, we should know specifically what the ordinance does say, because maybe, maybe the issue is different than just giving a permit. I don't know.
So I heard you say a couple, three things. I heard you say one about you're required, no, you have to go to the police department to get the permit, and you're required to hire a detail officer.
Correct.
You're also limited to 10 p.m.
On Saturdays, and my other days are as early as 8 p.m.
Okay.
At one point last year, I was told 10 p.m. for the first 4 permits. So 4 months I was at 10 p.m. and suddenly it was dropped to 8 p.m. and then negotiated back to 9 p.m. Not because of a noise complaint, but just because it was changed.
Well, and then, so I'm just wondering what the criteria is for the police department. So if what you're saying is true, that other venues in the city can go beyond that, and other venues in the city are not required to hire detail officers. So I'm curious as to what kind of bounds the chief of police has to issue permit. Can you just make it up on the fly? Is that what it is, or
From
or
the
is there
understanding on
criteria?
and when you read the permit, it says he has sole
Discretion.
discretion.
Oh, so so it's pretty wide ranging.
Right.
Okay, so
And that's on this loudspeaker permit?
Correct.
right.
In the city ordinance on there says that unreasonable noise is after 11 p.m., but we're being told that if he feels it's after 10, but yeah, other places are going to midnight. And last year, even when the festival was going down the street at the park till 11, I asked if we could have ours till 11 also, since they're right down the street from each other, and we were told no. We just had to hire police we had a veterans fundraiser. It was for fallen soldiers. And we had the fundraiser this past week, and the veterans had to hire 8 hours of police officers. But yet they had hardcore Martian bands up the hill for, kill switch engage for 1,000 people, and there was no police detail.
That's,
And you're not getting any reason why you're not getting anything?
We had a meeting again this year before the season started, and we were told that if things go good the first month, we would have it for the rest of the summer. That was in May, and we're still going month to month.
Yeah, this is really a rat the alley of the license board as opposed to this body.
Counselor Roman?
And as the counselor, again, I asked those same questions, what were the basis is, and, working with my constituent as a business constituent, he was told, it's because of noise complaints. And when he pulled the noise complaints from last year, if I may through you, Madam Chairman, what were the findings from that? Because that was the basis for why this restrictions were, exactly.
Did you have incidents?
But
So-
this is the results.
So for a full year, there was 5 noise complaints total, and that was with us having a permit 7 days a week. One of them specifically, we didn't have music playing. The other 4, the officers were standing there that were hired, and they were about 30 feet maybe from the speakers, and saying it wasn't loud. And the calls were coming from Chicopee. They weren't coming from our neighbors.
Oh, competitor, competitor. Anyway, but we can speculate.
Right.
All right, well, I think we understand your perspective, and then certainly there's the broader perspective, which is what we're trying to get at. And so that's very helpful. Thank you. So what is the pleasure of the committee? You want to put them together, continue the discussion, or do you want to?
Well, we've got to get we got to see the ordinances.
I mean, we can, yeah.
So let's.
Police.
Oh. Okay, so we don't have language. So what we.
So is it under the noise ordinance? And that's it?
All right,
That's
so
all we have?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Okay, I'll make a motion that the law department provide legal language to this body to review that would allow the license board to make a determination about loudspeaker permits. It would also allow the license board to present certain criteria to applicants to which they have to adhere. It would also provide to the license board certain authority that they can impose upon applicants, such as hiring detail officers. I would also suggest that there should be a, whatever the requisite fees are for this, if any. I don't know what they could possibly be, but I'm sure there's some kind of a,
No, there's no.
is there no fee?
No.
Well, then I'm going to suggest that there's going to be a fee, because I don't feel like having everybody and their brother coming up for a loudspeaker permit. I want them to, when they come to Holyoke for a permit, it shouldn't just be please, and we're going to be good. No, they get, there's consideration that they should offer, and that's consideration, whether it's $25, but that makes it more real. That's my opinion.
but,
So there's I mean, I'm just for, we don't have to approve it. I'm just saying we can
no, you're
review
just
it.
putting
So-
it out
so-
there for language,
Yeah.
and I would just,
That's all.
and
Thank
if
you.
I could just add to the request, thank you, Counselor Bartley, that we would put in that it could be seasonal or month, I don't want people to have to come in every month and pay $25 to get a loudspeaker permit, right? I mean, that would seem
Oh, it could be
a little-
seasonal. Oh, sure.
Yeah, so
Oh,
if we could write it,
Well,
That's the whole issue. We haven't even talked to anyone, not even the chief of police. I mean, I want to.
right, I mean, we need
like
to,
talk to the
but when we
chief.
get language, we can invite in the chief and,
Oh,
and
oh,
the chair of
well, when we have the
the
language, I like to have the chief and
licensing
license
board
there,
and all
sure.
that, yeah. Counselor Roman.
And through you, Madam Chair, before filing this, I did speak with the chief of police and I did speak with the licensing board and
Okay.
the staff,
Yeah.
because I wanted to make sure that it was gonna go to an appropriate home. And I compared it to like cities, so I compared it to Chicopee, and I went in, and again, the chief knows that I'm filing this order, he knows that I'm in this body today and actively pushing this, and, even in meetings that I've gone to and advocated on behalf of my constituents, and not just this one, the churches, everyone else, he knows that this body's looking at it, and I would love to get him in here.
And
But did he have feedback for you?
He said, if you think you could do a better job at it, go ahead.
that's what I kind of figured that. I mean, he'd rather be a police chief and not deal with
I'm thinking he really.
loudspeaker
I'm
permits.
thinking he really could find other things to do, but, that he would prefer
But
to
Madam Chair,
spend his
can I-
time on.
one thing?
Counselor Barton.
Yeah, and I just want to have in our draft language, I want to have some kind of cross-reference to the noise ordinances. And I want applicants to, any application forms, for them to be aware of city noise ordinances. So, that's it.
Have we given you enough to work with? Okay. Yeah, and if there's other things that you find that you think we should have in front of us, that would be great too.
I will-
Counselor Lopez?
I'm gonna do some research and see what other cities are doing with this, because I think I'm a little bit afraid about the enforcement, and we will take it away from the police, and then who's gonna enforce it?
Yeah.
And who's gonna go out, and that's what I'm a little bit concerned. So, but anyway, I'm only one, so I will gather
And
my
we'll hear
information.
more about it, yeah. Counselor Roman?
Yes, and through you, Madam Chairman, I would look, Chicopee's a strong example of a neighbor, East Hampton's a strong example. I've looked, so just giving you some examples of cities, and exactly that. My fear is, and that's the only reason why I filed this order, exactly what you're saying, Counselor Lopez. Enforcement is key, but it's being used as a tool to cherry pick who gets what and who doesn't, and almost as a tool, to almost intimidate sometimes churches or businesses into, hey, this or that. So I think we have to, exactly what my colleague, Counselor Bartley, was saying, even it, so there's still teeth, there's still an enforcement body that's gonna hold those
Well, that would still be the police.
speakers, exactly, so it'd still be the police either way. Thank you.
Thank you.
They'd enforce it.
Okay, so, I'll entertain,
Yeah, motion to table, but, until we hear back from law department.
right, so, and, did you second it?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the motion is tabled, waiting for legal language, and when you get that to me and Ryan, then I guess we'll go put it on the agenda? Not to press you, I'm sure you have a lot of things on the docket. All right? Okay, so we've jumped around, folks, so help me make sure. Okay,
Item number 4.
yes, now, I was thinking we were back to regular order, I think, when I was on the public hearing thing. Items 4 and 5 are continuations of public hearings. So I do need a motion to continue the public hearing on item 4.
So moved.
Yeah, motion to, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we're in the public hearing on the order filed by Counselor McGee, whereas new businesses that have developed around the mall area are looking for better directional signage for their business, and such signage could be placed on private property owners' property. It is therefore requested that the Ordinance Committee consider a possible new ordinance. Now, we had to continue it to a date certain, that's today, but nobody's come over from planning with a recommendation for us. And we did have a discussion about really quite a lot of the language. I think we did a couple of amendments, but we're really waiting on planning.
Do we have draft legal language, or?
Well, what we have is the amended non-accessory sign ordinance that was distributed at the last public hearing.
That's right, and we did a lot of work on that last
Right,
meeting.
Right, and you have that, right? And we amended certain aspects of the language,
Yeah,
but then we were hoping that tonight we might get back from the planning board a recommendation because they were having their hearing.
and
And we haven't heard anything back. So, Crystal, if you want to just update us on what you know, that would be great.
So I went to the planning board meeting to try and see if they could get to these matters while I could be there. They were stuck in their public hearing, so I didn't get a chance to hear anything they were discussing. I did talk with someone from the planning department about the non-accessory signs and both institutional signs. They'd like to weigh in on some of the language, so I do have all of your amendments, but I know they're looking at even more amendments possibly. So before putting anything into really a strict legal form, I'd like to just kind of get their feedback.
Right.
So really, we're just waiting on, unfortunately, we're waiting on planning board to kind of tell me what they think about this language as well.
Right, and if I could, the biggest concern I have was the same concern that came up over the proposed order that I made to let things be a little more flexible with the size of signage. And at that point, the point was made that many of the BH lots are very small, many are in residential areas, et cetera, et cetera. So I think all those same concerns apply to this big.
Correct. And our other thought was, rather than piecemeal these individual ordinances, maybe it's time to look at the sign ordinance as a whole and do a complete overhaul and kind of work in all of these matters at the same time. But in the interest of time, that may not be happening without getting some of these passed first. But
Okay.
long-term goal.
Councilor Bartlett?
well, I mean, I was just going to say, can you imagine if we granted this and allowed it as of right?
Oh, no.
I don't think so. I mean,
Oh.
can you imagine that in a BH zone? And if we
No.
change the BH zone on Lower Westfield Road, now across the street from 68 or 672 Lower Westfield Road, we put a
Huge pole with a
30-foot
30-foot
high,
sign.
30-foot high sign with 32 square feet of space saying, come down to JP's Restaurant. Yeah,
And that was the objection, even with just making the business signs
Yeah.
larger.
right.
Yeah, so it's complicated.
I think that, but I'm gonna be a little more firm on that. That's gonna be, I mean, that is advertising on a public way, and that's gonna have to be subject to a annual kind of a fee payable to the city of Holyoke for, I mean, I don't know if I think we said annual last time, but it's gonna be a reasonable fee, but it's gonna have to be an annual fee, for something along those lines. I mean, and it's just a nominal amount, and by the way, it's a write-off, so.
And we did say by special permit. And then we were going back and forth of city council,
Oh,
We
city,
end up
oh,
on
that's
city
city council,
council,
yeah,
right?
city council, yes. That one's city council. Now, that one's not,
yeah.
okay, so I'll make a motion to table this, but.
We'll have to continue it, I think,
The
till the
motion to continue the
25th.
public hearing to July 25th at 6:30 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I also, okay, so if we can go to the next, what's yours? My agenda.
Number 5.
Motion to
5.
take number 5 off the table and continue the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So this was the public hearing filed by Counselor Sullivan, order that Ordinance Committee review Section 6.4.5, Number 5, signs institutional use. And this was brought forth at the request initially of the hospital, but of course, again, it has broader implications. And our building commissioner is not returned, and the planning board also has not gotten back to us, so I think we're in the same situation on this one. The language that we all do have that we received last time was put forth by Counselor Sullivan and our building commissioner. It did not go through legal or planning at the time that we saw it.
I'm making a motion that we continue this public hearing until the 25th of July.
At 6:30?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so, Crystal, I believe we've dealt properly with all the public hearings at this point.
Make a
Oh,
motion to
okay.
take item 11.
All in favor? Aye. Filed by Counselor Greenie that the city council order that all clothing drop boxes on property throughout the city are the responsibility of the property owner to police and maintain. Any and all such clothing drop boxes shall be kept clean of any clothes and trash that might accumulate outside these boxes. Any violation of this ordinance shall be culpable for a fine of up to $25. It should be noted that all property owners who allow these drop boxes on their property should be in communication with the owners of these boxes to prevent any eyesores in the neighborhoods of Holyoke. And we do have draft language before us, and Crystal has been very clear with me that this is very rough. But I said, that's fine, because normally, as we're looking at these matters, we don't start out with a final form. We start out with a rough, and even if someone thinks it's final, usually somebody has something to edit on it, so. Anyway, I appreciate the draft, and
Madam Chair?
if you don't mind, Counselor Bartlett?
No, let's finish your thought. I know you're,
I was just gonna ask Crystal just to run down the main points
oh, sure. No.
of the draft, and other areas that she thought maybe we should pay attention to. Thanks.
So I don't know if the color came through on your copies. I kind of haven't read on what would be.
Oh, we can see it's fainter.
Okay.
It's fainter.
In number 6 and number 8, just kind of some thought points. I did look at a couple of other municipalities to kind of mishmash some of these points. Again, I have kind of discussed with planning about some of these things and some other departments about how this may work, who's going to enforce, what kind of fees, that sort of thing. So obviously the purpose here is to basically just eliminate any unregulated placement of, and I went with donation drop boxes. I don't know if maybe we should not limit it to just clothing. I don't know if.
I think donation drop boxes is perfect.
So I went that way.
Yeah.
Basically, we're just looking to promote public health, safety, general welfare, kind of get rid of what looks like a lot of trash sometimes or overflowing. And I know it's a problem in a lot of municipalities, not just here. And then it kind of goes into a definition. Basically, a portable outdoor container used for collection and storage of unwanted textiles, household items, not included to clothing, toys, books, shoes, that would get removed from the container on a periodic basis. And I think that's the issue here, is that they're not getting removed. And there are other ordinances for recycling centers, solid waste collection. We want to distinguish that. That this doesn't control those. We want to make sure that these are non-combustible material boxes, painted metal, plastic, other types of materials, something that's going to hold up. These are outdoors. We want to make sure that they're not rusting, they're not falling apart, they're not going to go up in flames if somebody throws a cigarette, that sort of thing. And part of that, we want to make sure that they're maintained in good condition and appearance with no structural damage, holes, or visible rust. That may need to be tweaked a little to be very specific, so that way whoever's enforcing this can have a really clear criteria of what they're looking for. And then we go into kind of the criteria for how many at a property, the size. Again, these were just kind of pulled from other areas, maybe a 6x6 box. We could look at some of the boxes around Holyoke and kind of see what those dimensions are and kind of tweak this a little bit. We may want to look at a zone that we want to allow these in. Is it going to be something that residential areas are going to have, business areas are going to have, and then kind of determine dimensions of how many in one area. Do we want every property owner to be able to have these? But then you don't want to cherry pick either, so it's a little difficult, but that's something that can be worked out with the draft. We don't want to obstruct pedestrian or vehicular circulation, so there may be a setback idea for where the boxes can go. We don't want them on sidewalks, in driveways, that sort of thing. Make sure that traffic can flow. Required parking spaces, no fire lanes, loading zones, anything that would prohibit safety of the public. And then we get into kind of disclosures as far as what should be on the box. Some of the municipalities had issues where there was fraudulent activity happening. These boxes were put out, people were donating them or selling the items in the boxes. So we may want to keep whoever is having these boxes on their property, or whoever is supposedly, not supposedly, whoever is collecting items.
that they have
That there's something on the box that tells us who to contact when there's a problem, when it's not being emptied. Keep the property owner liable for these issues. So if you're going to allow a box on your property, you need to make sure that whoever put it there is taking care of it. And I don't know if there should be a fine involved to the property owner if things aren't being taken care of. Most of the municipalities had very strict rules that if a complaint's made, the property owner or the person managing the box needs to have it taken care of within 24 to 48 hours, or fines were being issued. And it may work out that it's a fine on the property itself, wrap it into a municipal lien kind of situation, but I don't, that's up for interpretation.
or make them get rid of the box.
Yep, take out the box and then charge the property owner for the removal of the box. Somebody's got to probably pay for that. And that's sort of where I got to with most of the language. I know the order itself had talked about a $25 fine. I don't know if there's going to be a number of times that they're allowed to make a mess.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
3 strikes. Counselor Bartley. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Well, don't leave. So one, I want to make sure this is mailed to the counselor who originated the order, because I'm just getting a little tired of sitting here having counselors file orders and then having us do all the gosh darn work. So file the order. So in this case, you're going to have to mail it to the gentleman, put it in the mail and say, here's what we have for draft language. Read through it and give us some feedback. So that's request number 1.
Because he doesn't have.
I mean, I'm not saying you got to come all the time, because I mean, a lot of people come here, but a lot of the counselors who file orders here, I mean, they just don't appear. I mean, so we're left carrying their water, and I don't think that's fair. The second one is for these property owners who have drop boxes. How do we notify them of all this? I mean, is there a permit process that you've suggested in this application? And if not, if no permit process, and now we have all these donation boxes all over the city, can we impose a permit process upon these property owners? And then if we can oppose, or we can't, I need to get an answer on that, whether or not we can impose a permit process on them, because that's really the way it's going to, the language is going to get disseminated. I mean, we can pass all the orders in the world, but ultimately, there's probably about 9 of us in the world who know this even exists, and that's not really fair. So I need to know whether a permit process can be imposed. Certainly, it can be imposed down the road, but can we do it now after the fact? I'm suggesting that we can, but I don't know that to be true. So I want to know whether or not we can have a permit process. I certainly don't want to impose any kind of a fee on this, but I kind of like the, that's the carrot, no fee, but the stick is, I think Councilor Graney had a good point about having a little fine. And then the other thing is, I know we're going to hear this from Mr. Fitzgerald. Well, let the cops enforce it. Well, somebody's going to have to be laid out in here. Who's going to have enforcing powers? And if we put it on Mr. Fitzgerald's office, which is where I think it should be, it's got to be made clear. But before we do that, we should have Mr. Fitzgerald in here to get his input. Thank you.
If I may, I think this is a problem I think that it should stop over here at the city council. I think that this should be by special permit, and anyone who's gonna put a box in the city, they have to come and petition the city council. That way we will hold everyone accountable. And if we see it, we will call that person back into the city council. I think that will be the best way how to handle this, because we don't have the staff to go around, checking all these places. I think that, in my opinion, that would be the best way.
But would you see us grandfathering the ones that are already there?
I hope not.
Well, I like your idea, but I like to, why not before the license board gets settled? As opposed to, we just got a lot of stuff going on.
I just want to make sure that if you see a problem, you take it to somebody who's going to take care of it. Because by the time you call the border house, it's...
Well, we'll get the call anyhow, but I kind of like having the applicant, that's just my thought. I like the idea of having the permit be put before somebody, whether it's us or a license board. And we can talk that one out. So I'm agnostic at this point.
And it would be nice to find out what Councilor Greene would like to do also. It will be...
Which is what I said, yes.
Yeah,
I'd like
to talk to him.
You're gonna have to email it to him, but he'll give you feedback. Or us feedback. Yeah.
Right. So what is the pleasure? You want to table this to a certain time, or table till we hear back from the maker?
Just table for now, I guess.
Table
Just table it.
for maker of order
I'll second that motion.
to give feedback. Because see, then it keeps it off of me. Then they don't do anything, I don't do anything.
Yeah, no, table. That way,
Well, I think it's a good order. I just
I do
want to hear.
too, but I'm just saying, to move it, then we'll wait till they
Let's see if this addresses the
initiate
gentleman's concerns, which, it may or may
I
not.
share his concerns, so I'm warm to the notion, but it keeps me from having to mind the calendar.
Okay.
So on the motion to table, to hear back from the maker, all in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Well, the motion, just to amend the motion, to hear back from the maker, but I think we want to sort of tighten up some of the language that we propose as well, some of the stuff I propose, okay?
Yep.
And incorporate some of what we talked
All
about
right.
tonight?
Yes, that's the motion, okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So motion to take item number 12.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 12, filed by Councilor Jordan, ordered that the city council create and adopt a new comprehensive ethics ordinance. I just put this on the agenda because I knew Crystal was going to start to work on it. If you haven't had time, it's not a problem, because after we did the agenda, I thought we were going to wait till you had given something back to us. So, yeah, because I didn't intend to create pressure by this. So I'd entertain a motion to table.
Motion to table.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
And-
I apologize if that came across that way.
Just a point of order, when before we motion to adjourn, when does the chair lady want to meet again?
Well,
Because-
we have continued the public hearings to the 25th, and I thought, because this has been such a hard-working committee all year, that folks and our legal counsel might appreciate no meeting the second week in July. And
Okay,
that
so-
would make our next meeting be on the 25th.
25th, okay, 25th.
Does that work for everybody?
Should.
I mean, there's more things in the jacket, but, I mean, we could meet twice a week.
Oh, that should be fine.
Okay, so next time's the 25th, so motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think we